Hello and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I'm a Senior Software Support Analyst supporting the Transformation Extender product from IBM. The topic for this video is converting XML to CSV with ITX. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett Tech. In this practical demonstration, I will build a type tree from a known CSV output requirement and an Input XML schema for the same content. I will use a CSV example to import a type tree. I will then modify that type tree to suit my requirements. I will mock up an XML schema for input. I will then create a map that reads the CSV and writes our XML input. Finally, I will create a map that reads the XML and writes back out to CSV. We're going to start this demonstration in the ITX 10.1.2 Design Studio. I've got a fresh workspace open here and I'm going to create a new extender project, XML to CSV. If we have a look at the File Explorer, the project has been created. We don't have a CSV file to start work with, so let's grab one of those. Here's the CSV file I'll be working with. It's a simple 3-column CSV with a name and an age and a city. In our project, let's use the importer to build a type tree that will match that specification. I'm going to right-click my project and choose Import and use the text file importer. I'm pointing to my output CSV file here. My type tree will be named output.mtt in the current project. Now we come to the meat of the importer. Let's highlight all of the text and use that to create a new object. This object is going to be delimited by new lines. So that's parsed that now and decided that there's a new group, and these are the objects that it found within it. I'm going to rename that new group 0 now to File. I'm going to remove the description, it's unnecessary, and I'm going to delete this object because it's not necessary at all at the moment. Looking down the properties here, you can see that the delimiter has not been inserted, so I'm going to add it manually. And the location is listed as prefix. I'm going to change that to infix. I don't have a new line at the beginning of my file and I don't have a new line at the end, only in between each row. Next thing to do is to highlight a row and say that this is going to be a new group. The new group is going to be delimited with commas. Click OK. Over here it's created a new group for me. It's called it New Group 1. I'm going to rename that to Row. Delete the description, that's not necessary. The delimiter has been inserted here properly and the location is prefix. Again, I'm going to change that to infix because there's no comma at the beginning, there's no comma at the end, only commas in between the objects. Let's edit the individual items now. New item 1 is basically name. Remove the description. New item 2 is basically age, but instead of being text, we're going to change it to number. And new item 3 is basically city. And again, I'm going to remove the description. I believe we're finished with the importer now, so I'm going to click Finish. The type tree has been created. I'm going to open it and see if there's any manual changes required. My file object, we're completely happy with that. The delimiter is in there, it's set for infix. And if we double click it, it's got the row object in it. However, the range has not been set. So let's do that now. Set the range. There's between 0 and infinite, i.e. S, occurrences of the row object. Let's close that. Let's look at the row object properties. Explicit, delimited, comma, infix. We're happy with that. If I double click, it's got name, age, city. I can set the range on these, but they default to 1 anyway, so there's no need. I believe my type tree is complete. Analyze the structure and logic, and then save the type tree. Just to check that Typetree can correctly validate my output.csv file, I'm going to create a quick validation map. Right click, new map source, validation.mms. Within the map source, new map file, validation, and new input card in one. I'm going to use the Typetree that we have imported, output.mtt. Within that, I'm going to choose the file group, and we're going to read the file output.csv. So now we save, build, and run. The map has completed successfully. So this Typetree matches my output.csv specification perfectly. Now's the time to concentrate on the input side. For the input side, we're going to need a schema. So I'm going to right click my project and choose new XML schema file. I'm going to call it input.xsd. Right click elements, choose add element. Start with our root element. We need to right click this and set the type as a new type and create it as a local anonymous type. Double click root, and within root we're going to add an element called row. This is defaulting to a string, but again we need to do set type new, create as local anonymous type. Double click on row, and now we can add the individual elements. Name, which is defaulted to string, which is fine. Age, which has also defaulted to string, which we can now change to int. And finally, city. If we go back to our top level, look at our root, we've got rows, and if we double click on row, we've got the individual objects. Back at the top level, at root, we need to set the multiplicity of rows. From the default of 1 to 1 required, we're changing it to 0 or more. Let's save that file. Next we need an Input XML file. We don't currently have one, but we have an easy way of creating one. We're going to temporarily reverse our map, use the CSV data to create our Input XML before we go on to the final step of reading the XML to create the CSV. In our validation source file, we're going to create a new map. Going to call it reverse. Within reverse, I'm going to create a new input card. Actually, I'm going to go back to my validation and just copy the existing input card into it, because it's the same card. So we're reading our CSV there, and on the output side, we're creating a new output card called out. The type tree is going to be the schema we just created, Input XSD. Object we choose is XSD, and the file we're going to be creating is input.xml. In input.xml we have a repeating object called rows, and we have a repeating object called rows on the input. So we drag row to row and then encapsulate that in a functional map call. I'm going to call the functional map each row. Right click the rule, choose functional map wizard, create, close. There's our functional map created. Underneath reverse, now we just need to do the individual mappings. Well, this is easy. Name to name, age to age, city to city. Save, build, and we can't run because there's some empty rule cells. If we right click here and choose show all, we need to put in a couple of extra rules. XML version is 1.0. XML encoding is UTF-8. The other two can have none inserted into them. Save, build, and run. If we now expand the XML file section, you will see we have an input.xml. Quick look at that. In source view, you can see that this now matches the CSV file that we started with. Right, well, let's reverse that process. But we're going to do this in a new map source file. So this is our main project map. I'm going to call it main. New map in here, I'm going to call it action 1. My input card in 1. This time my input card is going to be the input.xsd schema. and I'm going to be reading Input.xml. The type object has to be XSD. New output card. Going to call this out. The type tree is going to be the output.mtt we created with the importer. The top level object we're going to be using is file, and I'm going to be calling this final.csv. On the input side we have a repeating object called rows. On the output side we have the same. So we drag one to the other, encapsulate this in a functional map. I'm going to call it each row again. I can get away with this because this is in a different map source file and it's not really overwriting anything. Right click the rule, functional map wizard, create, close. So underneath action 1 here we've got f_each row, and if we look, this is going to be an easy mapping process. Now if this was slightly more complicated with more fields, I might choose to use the auto mapper function, which would save me some time. With 3 items here it's just not worth it. We're going to save, build and run this map, and in our miscellaneous section we now have a final.csv, and if we double click this, it opens up in Excel, which is my default for CSV, and has the original data we started with. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, please hit that like button, perhaps leave a comment. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I release content such as this on a regular basis. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett Tech. Thank you.